Welcome to our BioTour bus. This is where 13 of us eat, sleep, work, and travel on 2 buses.
This is our bus. Across the country we get asked a lot of questions about how we live, so we're here to answer the most frequently asked ones about how you live on a bus.
So the most frequent question we get as we travel the country is where we shower. And the way we see it is there are already plenty of showers and bathrooms across this country that we don't need one on the BioTour bus. So we rely on friends and family and the school visits we go to, truck stops, and nature to take care of those needs. We use biodegradable soap where applicable, and we have a fun time doing it. Except when Carmen and I showered in the Cedar River and got sick for 3 days. That was a bad idea. So one of the main components of living on a bus is greasing. We typically go to Chinese and vegetarian restaurants because they have the best grease in our experience. We store the grease from their dumpsters in 3 55-gallon drums that we have underneath the back of the bus. The grease is good when you look at a bin like this and it's full and it's clear and it's clean and there's nothing in. Wow, look at that.
That is clean grease right there.
Amazing grease you got there.
Filter that we constructed. The other bus we use an air filter, but we didn't have one of those, so we used a t-shirt. Keeps particulate matter out, lets grease go through.
So after several hours of getting greasy and messy, we thank the people from the restaurants and we head on our way.
So when we have 7 people plus on the bus, we need to set up more beds than we have available to the naked eye. We can sleep 2 people on the top bunk, 1 person here. The table over there flips over into a bed. But we still have to fit a couple more, so we will actually take out the leaves under the bed. These are pieces of wood that will shift over, and it will create a platform that we can then unfurl the mattresses and sleep sort of horizontally on those, so we can all fit. If we have honorary crew members on, we have even bigger group, but we have plenty of room for everybody. The back beds are pretty hard to sleep on when the bus is moving. You have sort of a dive board situation where it's bouncing and you'll smack your face against the top of the bunk bed, especially on the top. It goes pretty deep, but the top bunk is very shallow height-wise, and your face is right up against the top of the bus. So as long as you're not claustrophobic, it's okay. So one thing about living on a bus is that you're always driving. You're driving in the day, you're driving through the night. To get to an area on time, you've always got to be driving. And we all take turns driving for however many hours we're able to withstand it or stay awake. And driving is also a team effort. Someone has to be looking up directions and feeding them to the driver. We always need help backing up. Being the driver is actually pretty awesome. You're crossing the country and you're probably the one who's the most alert about everything that's going on. So the scenery will change. I always keep my little camera up next to me, so in case anything really interesting goes by, that I can get a shot of it. You want to alert everybody else what's going on, so maybe a black bear is crossing the road, or there's a really funny billboard up, because that's part of crossing the country, is learning the places that we're going to and the places that we just drive through and don't even get to stop in. When you're driving, it's a form of taking your personal space, so you're usually up here in your own meditation and you're able to either think for long hours. I a lot of times just listen to my iPod. I'll listen to books on tape so I can get a lot of reading in while I'm driving. We get asked a lot whether you need a special license to drive this bus. All you need is a regular car license because it's registered as a camper. One thing about the United States, it's a very road-friendly country. The road culture is pretty uniform. Everywhere you go, there's a gas station that's got food and coffee and showers and bathrooms. It's very driver-friendly.
We also constantly endure breakdowns, and it's kind of a pain because you're either sleeping or napping or driving or doing something else, and then it's a matter of focusing all your attention to this immediate task. Sometimes it might be a fuel hose, or it might be, air in the lines, or it might be a bigger problem that we don't really know what it is, but we're gonna have to spend some time trying to figure out what is wrong so that we can repair it, or either go buy the parts, or try to find a way to keep going.
So you might be wondering how we feed ourselves on the bus. And 90% of the time we're cooking for ourselves. We use a camping stove. So when we cook, we have a meal that we call Biotour Special, and we eat that a lot of the time. It's brown rice, black beans, and eggs. I also make sure that we always have chocolate on the bus and coffee. And Ethan always says, cook leftovers. A lot of times we get fed at the school visits we go to. They'll invite us into their cafeteria. The generosity of people who will meet us in parking lots and invite us. We also visit friends and family who happen to be in the area, and we always get a hot meal. When we go food shopping, we like to buy local products. We'll try and find a farmer's market if we can, and make sure that the food that we're buying hasn't traveled 1,500 miles to get to our bellies. We're also supported by the generosity of the people that we meet along the way, either schools or communities that have gardens. They'll supply us with bags of produce that they've grown themselves.
It's definitely challenging living in a small space with a large group of people. We tend to focus a lot on this collective and community feeling. And so what we do is we tend to take turns driving, people nap, read books, do their work on the computer, and just fill out different types of tasks that we have to fulfill. And then whenever we need a break, we stop and we run around outside, and we climb trees, and we do somersaults, and we try to enjoy nature as much as possible. So despite the greasing,
despite the random showers,
despite the mechanical failures,
and despite the lack of privacy,
we have
fun! So we'll get off the bus in a grassy area just to get out in nature.
And we'll run around and have an amazing time doing it. But then we'll meet total strangers, and we'll have the most amazing conversations with them.
Yeah, we get to know locals and their area pretty well that way. They'll come up and ask us about the bus, and in turn they'll tell us about the place that they live, and we get to learn a lot about an area that way.
Or we'll stop and we'll set a sheet between two trees and we'll project a movie.
And we end up sleeping under the stars.
And then we'll stop and we'll start to play some music and have our spirits combined through these beautiful radiations of joy and happiness.
So we'll research a national park in the area and explore an old growth forest or a pristine lake or a cave system, and get to know the protected wildlife areas in our country.
We have the opportunity to interact with local spiritual leaders that invite us to their congregations or churches or yoga sessions. And despite the different religions, we'll be able to tap into them all.
We really try and get to know the people in an area, and so whatever they invite us to do, we're usually pretty happy to do it, and to get to know the community and the people and the way that they live and the way they celebrate and the music that they make.
And despite all these disconnected realities, we have so many things in common, and we're able to rejoice and just have fun with those commonalities.
We celebrate life. So living in this way, living on the road and living on a bus, really teaches you that the materialistic lifestyle that we lead otherwise is not a necessary one, and it sort of frees you from those things we call necessities and really makes you appreciate the things that you need in life.